Hi guys, let's get into a reading. Thank you for your likes, your comments, your subscribes, and to those of you who have booked a personal reading with me, please keep in mind that these are general messages, so do not take them personally. Take the messages that resonate and leave the rest behind. If you would like to book a personal reading with me, you can find the information in the description box below. Let's get into it. What message do you have for the collective at this time? Help me to articulate a clear and concise message in order for it to be received in the way that you want it to best be received. Help me to see what it is that I need to see to get the message across as clear as possible. And help me to deliver any messages that you deem worthy in order to serve your highest good, for the highest good of humanity with harm to none. What messages do you have for the collective at this time? What messages do you have for the collective at this time? What messages do you have for the collective at this time? It's too many. Oh, it's too many. Give me one more. Okay. Okay. So this is the energy of you really learning how to be committed to something. There's an understanding that you have, right? About maybe a vision that you have or something that you're creating, right? But it's almost like whatever it is that you are creating, it requires commitment. It requires a sense of devotion. It requires a sense of self-motivation, so to speak, right? Where you kind of just have to know, right? This is kind of giving me the energy of like having strong faith, right? That what you need to know will be revealed to you at the very moment that you need to know it, and not a moment before and not a moment after, right? It's almost as if like there's a vision that you have, because if I am looking at this clearly, there is the right eye clear in this card and the left eye is visible in this card. But together, you have a vision of both. And then the third eye in both of them as well, right? So there's something that like there's a dual perspective here. One being the vision that you have, and one being the faith, having the faith of things that you can't see but you know are there, right? And that are leading and guiding you on the correct path, right? But it strictly requires your commitment. It requires your devotion. It requires your attention. It requires you to be disciplined in keeping your eye on the prize, if that makes sense, right? You can't allow yourself to be distracted for any moment when you are in this process of kind of bringing to life what this is, what you are envisioning, right? Because here you have both eyes, but the third eye is complete, right? Here, it's almost as if these are not fully visible, right? So there is some sort of faith required. But it's your passion, it's your intuition, it's your commitment, it's your devotion, right? that will make everything clear in the moment in which you are meant to receive such clarity, right? Clarify intuition. And it's storming pretty hard now, so I'm almost getting to like a sense of like something being cleared out. There's something being cleansed, something being cleared out. Okay, I completely missed this at first. Yep, with the priestess underneath. Wow, and growth here. I'm going to stop pulling here. But look, cycle as well. So these are meant to be revealed for a reason. When I felt the sense of like something being cleared out, if you hear my pup whining, please know that she is very well loved and very well cared for. She's just going through a cycle right now, and there's nothing that I can do to comfort her. So she's just, in a mood. But when I got the sense of clearing out, I was drawn to this card here, right? Where this card has been coming up in the past few readings. So if you have not seen those readings, there may be a message in there for you. It's a reading like 2 or 3 readings before this one. There's one about like building the architecture of peace, and I can't think of the title of the one before that, but it's a couple readings before this one. But this card keeps coming out where this is almost like what's clearing out, right? You are beginning to see the truth of maybe of other people's perspectives that were trying to cloud your vision is what's coming through, right? Something is being, so it's almost as if like your vision is being made clear because you're taking off the blinders, right? You are getting to a space where you are coming into alignment with your intuition, what it is that you know, right? Your faith. Not necessarily having to ask for outward perspectives in order to validate what it is that you're feeling internally, right? So again, that may be a cycle that you were existing in where it just was this unhealthy patterns of getting maybe too many opinions, getting too many perspectives that was causing a sense of cloudiness, or it was kind of distorting your vision, or the one that you had an internal knowing of, right? But it was almost as if you weren't necessarily in alignment with that because you weren't truly committed and devoted to trusting that that perspective. I'm going to leave these out just because they feel like a very important part of the message, right? But with this priestess here and this growth, that there's almost like a strengthening of intuition, right? Almost a strengthening of you learning to trust what it is that you sense but can't necessarily see. You learning to trust your own inner compass. But this too is a sense of like you accepting who you are in a sense, right? Because your intuition, your soul is you. And so by learning to trust you, your soul as it is, and not having to receive guidance or perspective from someone else in order to validate what it is that you are sensing internally, is you coming into alignment with yourself, right? And that's where the growth is, right? Because there was a disconnection in what you were seeking because people, or what, in whatever sense you were seeking guidance, it almost as if like there wasn't a strong knowing or a strong intuition or a strong understanding of what it is that you knew internally, of the guidance that you were receiving, right? So what you were seeking outwardly wasn't able to give you the correct direction because they didn't necessarily have the vision towards the path the same way you did, right? I hope that makes sense the way it came through. But then this is like you learning how to, grow in that sense where you are understanding that it's okay to ask for a perspective, but you also have to be 100% in alignment and 100% in attunement to yourself, so that whenever you receive perspective that is not in alignment with the faith and the knowing that you have, it won't lead you on the wrong path, right? Because you have that, you have a strong sense of knowing and trust within yourself, within your own vision, within your own intuition, within your own guidance, right? You have your own connection with God, right? You don't need validation from other people when you're receiving the direction that you're asking for from source, right? What more confirmation, what more validation than you need other than that from God, that from source, that from the universe, however you identify, right? And that may be a part of yourself that you were rejecting at first. Maybe you didn't truly have trust in what and two, because it almost seems like you were receiving signs, you were receiving guidance, but it was more so like intuitive guidance, right? And so while you were seeing it, you were also believing it. And you only believe in things that you don't know to be true. So it too, like in that sense, was like, oh, I believe this is where I'm supposed to go, but everything around me or every person around me or, the life that I'm living is guiding me in one direction, even though intuitively, faithfully, I'm being guided somewhere else. So you were rejecting God in a sense. Because you were asking God for guidance and then rejecting the guidance that you were receiving in the same sense, because it wasn't something tangible that you could see. It required faith, which is an indirect knowing. Clarify intuition. Clarify intuition. Eight of Swords. Overthinking. Yeah. You were overthinking the things. Yeah. The Six of Wands. You were overthinking the direction in which you were being guided. Right? But there's a sense here for you to kind of overcome what it is that was keeping you stuck, right? That sense of analysis paralysis where you were wishing for something and, I'm sensing like the dandelion leaves kind of like guiding you on the path of where you were supposed to go. But because you were so stuck, because you were receiving so many different perspectives, because you were receiving so much advice from many different sources, you couldn't necessarily trust the direction, right? There wasn't a clear direction because everything was going everywhere at the same time. Because you weren't grounded in knowing who you are, knowing the intuition, and you weren't grounded in following the intuition in which exists within you. Although you were receiving the signs, you were receiving the information, you were receiving the guidance internally, you were receiving the synchronicities, and you were acknowledging them. You were acknowledging them as if like, oh, that's a sign. Thank you for that confirmation. And the fact that you were acknowledging them but not following them shows a lack of confidence within yourself, a lack of confidence within your own intuition. And that, in a sense, is why the cycle kept repeating itself, right? Where you would be guided to do one thing, right? You would ask God for it's like almost like you would ask God for confirmation. You would receive said confirmation, and then instead of trusting that confirmation, you would seek outward confirmation from something physical, which would be completely it would be like the complete opposite of the guidance you received from God. And so it was creating a sense of confusion. It was blurring your vision. It was blurring your perspective. And therefore you kept repeating the same cycles. And now there's like a clearing. There's a clearing of that outward noise, right? A cleansing of so many different perspectives where now it's almost as if like you're not hearing anything internally because you turned away that guidance so many times. And now that you're seeking it, it's almost as if you can't hear it. But not because it's no longer there. It's just that you didn't trust it when it was there. And so now you kind of have to go back and kind of unravel all of the extra noise and all of the extra perspectives and all of the extra advice and all of the extra guidance that you receive outwardly. You kind of have to unravel that so that you become more aligned with what the guidance that you are receiving from God, the synchronicities that you are receiving from God, that you should have followed initially, that you knew you should have followed initially, because this too doesn't feel like a one-time thing. This feels like this is giving me like the world card, where this was like a repeated cycle. You get guidance. Let me ask for confirmation on this guidance. Okay, let me ask somebody else how they perceive what it is that I just received. And then when you would get that outward guidance, because it was different from what you received internally from God, you would no longer trust what you were receiving from God, right? It's almost as if you would take the advice of the physical, even though it didn't align with anything that you were receiving in any other area. And that cycle just kept repeating. Well, this person said this, so let me go back and ask for confirmation. And then God would give you confirmation. And then you would go back to that person and say, but then this happened. And then because it looked completely different, you're like, let me go back and ask God again. And then he would and it's a repeated cycle. Look, I didn't even have to ask. I didn't even have to ask. The Eight of Pentacles. So look, this is exactly what I just said. The unveiling. You're having to go back and unwrap all of that extra noise, all of those extra perspectives, all of that extra advice that you were receiving that was taking you off of the path in which you were being guided, right? King of Pentacles. You're going to have to ground yourself in what it is that you know to be true. What it is that you know to be true internally, right? The Moon. Trusting your faith, trusting your intuition, right? Trusting trusting the guidance that God gives you, right? Yeah. This right here literally confirms exactly what I just said. It's the unraveling so that you can truly see, right? Because if you see here, when you were asking for all that guidance, it kept you further in the dark. And now that you're unraveling, you're beginning to see things more clearly, right? Things are becoming more clear. It's you unveiling the truth of the guidance in which you were asking for, right? You didn't need that extra confirmation because you already received it from God, the main source, right? So why would you go back and ask for confirmation from anybody other than God when God already guided you on what to do? What was the purpose of even asking if you weren't going to trust it in the first place, right? And so now that God is quiet, it's almost like what do you want to trust, right? Because the advice that you were receiving from the outward perspectives, they didn't lead you on the path in which you were trying to go. They actually took you very far on a detour, right? Now you're having to backtrack. Where did I lose? Where did I make the wrong turn? And that's kind of what this is. This is backtracking. Clarified devotion. Seven of Cups. Because it's that confusion, the illusion. You have to be committed to blocking out the noise, right? Blocking out that, and it's very difficult, which is why you have to be devoted. You have to be disciplined. You have to be committed. You have to kind of persevere, because following your intuition is not easy when you don't trust it, right? Because outward perspectives, outward visions, outward things that you seek outside of where you're being guided create an illusion. They create confusion, right? And that's here. Like you have, look, the Hangman, the Two of Swords, the Fool. This is the road that, how can I express this? How can I put this into words? It's almost as if there's two sets. There's give me a second to kind of put this into words. It's almost as if you were foolishly following the words, the perspective, maybe the actions, the guidance of other people, other places, other experiences. Maybe based off of something that maybe has occurred like in your past. It can also be just like you just not knowing, you because you didn't have a firm trust in yourself, because you didn't have a firm trust in your intuition, you foolishly followed the path of other individuals' perspective, right? And now that has left you, look, the Chariot underneath, that has left you in a place of the Hangman, where you now feel stuck, right? You feel stuck because you know that the outward perspective that you were seeking isn't the direction that you're supposed to go. But now it's almost as if because you feel stuck because now that you aren't receiving those same synchronicities from source. It's not because he's not listening. It's because he's already told you. It's because you already have the answers, right? You keep asking for validation and you've already received it many, many, many times over. Not only did you receive it many times over, you ignored it many times over. And so it's almost like, why would I keep repeating myself when you already have the answers? It's up to you to follow it, right? I can't give you any more direction than what I've given you up until this point. You have to be the one to take action, to move your feet, to go on the path in which you want your life to go, right? Nobody can tell you what to do except you, right? You keep searching for these outward perspectives. You keep searching for all of this confirmation when you already have the answers that you seek. It's up to you to follow them. There's no more confirmation that will make it more true other than the action you put towards choosing that path, choosing what truth to follow. Because nobody can tell you what truth is true for you except the direction in which you choose, the direction in which truth you choose to move towards. Right? I hope that makes sense the way it came through. So now you're in this place where you're feeling stuck. You're feeling in this like moment of observation of like, dang, what was it? Where do I go from here is almost what it's asking. Let's clarify this Chariot. The Moon came right back out. Your intuition. I was going to ask what direction. The Two of Cups. The intuition. Who it is. what the Two of Cups can speak to soulmate energy, right? But that doesn't necessarily have to mean another person. That can just mean you coming into attunement, into alignment within yourself. So making your outward experience match the intuition in which you're being given, right? Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. So the direction, the direction in which you should be affirmed is where you know. Follow your instincts. Navigate across illusions. The Seven of Cups. Unveil, unwrap all that extra noise, all those extra perspective, all that extra guidance that you were seeking that was unnecessary. Get rid of that, right? Eliminate those illusions. Make it clear for yourself, which means this also too is giving me a sense of meditation where it's not necessarily time to ask guidance for God, and it's also not time to ask guidance from anybody else. It's time for you to follow the guidance within, right? This is about you, yourself, and nobody else, right? God has already given you the direction. He's shown you what path will take you to where you want to go. And instead of following that path, you went with the path that physically, right? And that's the thing with faith. Faith is very scary because physically it never looks like what you're perceiving internally, right? It never looks like the guidance that you're receiving. Outwardly it looks completely different until it doesn't, right? And that's kind of where the clarity happens. You have to sit in that sense of meditation and really go back to come back to a sense of self, right? So that you can build that trust within yourself, that you can build that trust within your intuition to know that your intuition will guide you on the right path, right? You don't have to ask for outward confirmation when you have 100% faith in your intuition, your instinct, right? Where you are being guided. You have 100% trust in the faith that God instills in you, right? But again, that's not an easy path. You have to be committed. You have to be devoted. You have to be disciplined enough to turn off that noise. It's very difficult. And I think that's where most people give up. Because they think that following your guidance or following your intuition is a straightforward path. It's not. You have to work hard to remain in tune with yourself. You have to work hard to keep the voice and the vision that you have aligned to the path in which you're trying to create, and not allow other perspectives to kind of divert you off of that path, right? So let's pull 4 cards. 1 card for what we can learn as the major lesson surrounding this message. 1 card for what we can create surrounding this message. 1 card for what we can meditate on surrounding this message. And 1 card for the new cycles and habits we can innovate to contribute to our growth and expansion surrounding this message. Very loaded message. Very loaded. This is almost like being guided back to the path of yourself. One card for what we can learn as the major lesson. One card for the major lesson. Oh, that's too many. One card for the major lesson. Duality. Ancestors. Trusting your intuition, trusting the guidance that you receive internally. You don't have to seek outward guidance when you receive exactly what you're looking for through synchronicities, through your intuition, through the guidance of God, through the guidance of your ancestors, through the guidance of your spirit guides, your angels, right? You don't have to look outwardly when you ask for confirmation from God of your intuition and he gives you that. Why would you go outside for more confirmation? There's no stronger confirmation than any confirmation that you receive from God himself, herself, themselves, right? One card for what we can create surrounding this message. Shiva with death. Yep. It's giving, how can I put this into words? It's almost as if like you can create that sense of power within yourself, strengthening your faith. This is like a sense of transformation, right? You're letting your ego die. Or not letting your ego die, but putting it in the back seat of your intuition, right? Because the ego is necessary to keep us grounded in reality. But it should not be the driver of every decision that you make, right? Because that can silence the voice of your intuition and inflate a false reality, right? So this is the transformation that you should be making, right? There's a shift being made in this sense, right? Of you learning to follow your intuition, of you learning to trust yourself, of you learning to trust the guidance that you receive from God, the synchronicities, the symbols, everything that you receive from source. You have to learn to trust that. One card for what we can meditate on as the focus of this message. Warrior. Creation. Holding that vision, being disciplined to the path, the vision that you seek, right? Holding that vision and being disciplined with the guidance that you're receiving, right? Meditate on your strength so that you are able to, again, the hangman, this is giving the chariot and the moon energy, right? Where you have to learn to follow the direction in which your intuition is guiding you. That's what you need to meditate on. You need to bring yourself back to you. You need to bring yourself back in alignment with who you are so that you are able to have a clear vision of the path in which you're trying to create for yourself. Because when you receive too many perspectives, when you receive so much guidance from so many different people who are living their lives in so many different ways, who are not even in touch with their own intuition. How can somebody else guide you or give you confirmation on how to trust your own intuition when they themselves are not living a life where they are being led and guided by their intuition, right? They themselves are not being confirmed by God. How can you trust a voice, a perspective, advice from somebody who they themselves are not following the path in which you're trying to lead, right? That's backwards. So bring yourself back to you. Learn to trust yourself so that you don't have to navigate through those illusions that you put yourself in, that you create when you go outside of yourself, right? One card for the new cycles and habits we can innovate to contribute to our growth and expansion surrounding this message. One card. Sage. This is really giving inner wisdom. See that third eye. Leading. This is in the wolf, the leader of the pack, the magician. And then fear wanted to poke out. So I'll leave that there as well. Because it's almost as if like your fears is what was leading you outside of yourself. The sage is giving high priestess energy here, right? And the fear is the blinders that you were keeping. And it's almost as if maybe you were asking guidance from outward perspectives because you didn't want to believe what you already know to be true, right? And it's almost giving like a sense of imposter syndrome, where maybe you didn't truly see something as capable, as obtainable. And so you almost denied yourself a part of you, because it's giving like self-sabotage. You didn't want to believe that you had the capability. You didn't want to believe that you could achieve or maintain something, because the people around you are not obtaining that. Why? Because one, they don't have the perception. Two, they don't have the ability. Three, they don't have the connection. You have the connection with the sage and the high priestess. You have the connection. It's the Holy Trinity. Your intuition, and God, right? And everything that comes with that. You have that connection. Where you were seeking outward advice from, they didn't have that same connection that you have. And so because you almost were like fearful of, it's almost like being afraid of your own power. And so it's almost like you needed confirmation from other people to validate what you were experiencing wasn't real, even though it was. But because you were experiencing it by yourself, because the hangman is almost like the hermit energy, except it's a sense of meditation. It's not necessarily a sense of action, right? It's almost like there's a balance between two perspectives. When you're in the hangman, you're trying to find the truth in something. The hermit already knows the truth. The hangman is searching for that truth. And so you were searching for the truth within yourself, or you were searching for validation of the truth in which you already had of yourself. But you were searching that validation from other people who cannot see as clearly, as deeply, as intuitively as you can. They aren't being guided. They aren't being led by the same strength and power that you are. So they can't see what it is that you have the ability to achieve, because from their perspective, it's not a reality. But for you, it is a reality. For you, it is a knowing. For you, it is an existence. However, that sense of imposter syndrome, not truly knowing who you are, you ran from that part of yourself. You hid from that part of yourself because it seemed much bigger to you than what you felt you could hold. That's such a powerful message. But see, you have the magician. You have the power. It's just that fear, right? That fear is what keeps the blockage. Because here it's almost as if like there's a reflection, because see, water mirrors. Here, water mirrors. But the you that you were looking at was much bigger than how you see yourself in this current moment. So you you kind of strayed away from that. You strayed away from the transformation. You strayed away from the discipline. It was easy to not commit to that because it was something that you couldn't tame the fear that it brought, right? Very powerful message. Very powerful message. Where you choose to go next is up to you. Are you going to choose to become one with yourself and to learn to stop seeking guidance from those who just simply don't have the ability to perceive or achieve the things in which you do, right? Not everybody on this earth is blessed with the same power. And that too is the beauty of nature, right? Even within the felines, they don't all have the same power, right? Lions, jaguars, leopards, cheetahs, they're all very powerful cats, but they don't all carry the same strength, right? So you can't seek guidance from somebody who doesn't hold the same power that you do because they don't have the ability to achieve what it is that you do, right? It's up to you to decide, are you going to continue to be afraid of yourself? Or are you going to learn to trust yourself? But that is the message that I have for you guys. I hope that it resonated. I know that if you made it to the end of this video, you have found something in it that is worthy and valuable to you. Thank you for watching. Bye.